14. That is how many Nintendo Switch 2 exclusives we have right now, including ones that have been announced but not yet released. That fact alone is enough to generate comments like these from people who feel like Pokemon Pokopia itself isn't enough to justify the purchase of an entirely new console. Meanwhile, the game itself is sold out everywhere to the point where Amazon raised the price of the physical version. There's not even a video game in the box, and it's still selling out. But I've been streaming Pokopia essentially nonstop since its launch, and I've been having a lot of conversations with people in chat about whether or not the game is worth it. And I don't just mean worth it for the price of $70. I mean worth it to the tune of $500, because that's how much it's going to cost for somebody who doesn't have Pokopia or a Switch 2 to start playing the game. Let's start with my initial impressions. Obviously, I'm super into it. Been playing it pretty much nonstop since it released. So what is this game doing differently to justify the cost for somebody who may not even have a Switch 2 yet? Well, for me anyway, this is the first game I've played in a really long time where I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And honestly, I couldn't remember the last time I had this feeling. I thought it might have been for Animal Crossing New Horizons, because when that game first came out, I didn't put it down for days and days and days, but neither did anybody else. I think the last time I had this feeling about a game was actually when Pal World released. And I'm comparing it to Pal World not only because of that, but because Pal World and Pokopia have something in common. Pal World took Pokemon and combined it with a game like Ark Survival Evolved. Pokopia actually takes a game like Minecraft and combines it with Animal Crossing. Catchable laborers aside, these two games have that in common. They take multiple popular genres and kind of cram them together in a way that works really, really well. And right now, at least for me as a gamer, that's kind of the formula that works. If you can take two types of games that traditionally speaking, I'm gonna play and play and play nonstop, and you put them together, it's kind of a recipe for disaster, at least as far as my social life is concerned. But that combination doesn't necessarily make Pokopia unique, because a lot of people are comparing Pokopia to a game called Dragon Quest Builders, which I've never played. I know nothing about it, but people have been saying, if you don't have a Switch 2, maybe you should check out Dragon Quest Builders if Pokopia looks like it's for you. I'm just gonna co-sign that because people I trust are saying it, so it must be true. So if you're leaving this video feeling like crap, now I have to buy Pokopia, at least now you know there is like an alternative game. But let me get into some of the things specifically about Pokopia that have really, really impressed me. So far, I would say the biggest thing about Pokopia is that there's so much to do. I would argue a little too much to do all at once. First, you have the main story with a clear progression. Most games have this. And then you also have the side quests. There's just side quests everywhere, usually in the form of like discovering a new Pokemon, and that Pokemon wants something like a house. At its core, this is a building and design kind of sim. So during the main story, you're encouraged to build and decorate. And of course, you're going to want to build and decorate just for fun. Since it is a design sim, I'm also comparing it to Animal Crossing New Horizons, my experiences in that a lot. Because in New Horizons, you don't have as many building opportunities, right? The world is not made of individual blocks that you can build with. All the houses are prefabricated. And if you want to make buildings, you're forced to kind of get creative with larger items to create kind of like faux buildings all over the place. So far, there's not like custom designs that I've seen where like in Animal Crossing, you can draw on a tile and put it in the world. That might be coming later. I have no idea. I'm trying not to spoil too much for myself. But failing that, I still feel like Pokopia is a pretty endless sandbox when it comes to building, more so than Animal Crossing, which is why I feel like this game just feels so much larger than Animal Crossing. It just feels like out of the gate, there's so much more to do. But I'm not done, because as far as things to do, that's just single player. I haven't even gotten into the multiple multiplayer modes that this game offers as well. First, you have the Pallet Town Island. Everybody gets one of these, and it's kind of attached to your single player game. Here, you can invite your friends via online or local play, and you can kind of just play together, but it's your island. You have like admin controls over it. And then there's Cloud Islands. Now, Cloud Islands are really cool because they're actually online all the time. Once you start your Cloud Island, you can share the code with your friends, and you don't have to be there. Nintendo's just gonna host this for you forever. You and 3 other friends can decide, hey, let's all jump on and start building out this place. And then, as if that wasn't enough, there's also this headset I found in the game. I was just playing last night and I randomly put this thing on. You wear this weird goggle headset and it introduces Dream Cloud Islands. Or I don't think they call it that, but it's like Dream Islands in Animal Crossing. You know, in Animal Crossing, you can upload your island and anyone can tour it and they can't hurt anything because it's just a copy of the island they're looking at. Yeah, your Cloud Island in Pokopia can do that. And you can take your Cloud Island and make a version of it that people can just visit whenever they want. So eventually, as more people play this game for hours and hours and they start to flesh out their cloud islands, I'm going to be able to go and stream Dream Cloud Islands, kind of like I used to do for Animal Crossing Islands. And all of those things that I'm talking about are accessible to the player really early on. It doesn't take too much progression to start unlocking the multiplayer modes. And when you have all of these options for customization and building and multiplayer, you get a community around your game. And that is really where I think this game becomes a staple of the Nintendo Switch 2, kind of like New Horizons was a staple of the Switch 1. Once it came out, 6 years later, it stayed relevant. And that kind of leads me to the big thing I want to talk about also, the game's longevity. It's too early to sit here and claim that Pokopia is already a staple of the Switch 2, but given the excitement I'm seeing around it and already the posts I'm seeing of some of the incredible builds that people are doing, it's looking like Pokopia could be a staple of the Switch 2. In my opinion, Pokopia is probably going to break what I call the hype cycle. Essentially, whenever a new game comes out, it has that like 1 to 2 weeks of a lot of hype where everyone's talking about it, and then it just dies. It's as if it never existed. I think a really good example of this is Pokemon Legends ZA. I certainly played it for a long time, but it really does feel like in terms of like streaming and content, everything came out in the first couple of weeks, and then we never heard of it again, which I would say for most games is probably the norm. Sandbox games in general tend to do really, really well if the launch is strong, breaking the hype cycle. Minecraft is the prime example of this. It's still relevant today, and it came out over a decade ago. Pokopia is a really, really good sandbox game so far. So if it breaks the hype cycle, if I'm right, does that mean you need to buy it right now, given that it has that kind of longevity behind it potentially? And yeah, if it's something you can't afford right now, then the obvious answer is no. Don't put yourself into debt over a game that isn't going anywhere. Unfortunately, it's not that simple because on top of Pokopia maybe having some longevity, there's still a lot of complexities going on outside of Pokopia that could mean people are buying a Switch 2 maybe sooner than they want to, because Nintendo has started to talk about potentially needing to raise the price of the Switch 2 soon. This is all due to the rising costs of computer components, RAM and chips and everything else because of AI data centers and all that stuff. You've probably been well aware of this already if you followed tech for even 5 minutes. The AYN Thor is a really good example of what price increases could look like. This is a device that I've been looking at for a while. I really want to get one. It's seen 2 price increases so far. So if the Switch 2 saw that kind of price increase, it does, I think, put it close to like $500. And that's not a number Nintendo shared. That's just me speculating. But buying something you can't afford just because it might become more expensive later is also not smart, because if you end up buying that thing on credit, the interest payments alone will probably be more than the cost of that price increase. So I'm not saying do that either. Price aside, I think that everybody kind of has that one game that kind of tips them over the edge into finally buying the next gen console. For a lot of people, especially people who watch this channel regularly, that game is Animal Crossing. You've told me that dozens and dozens of times when I've asked in the community tab if you're buying a Switch 2 or buying Pokopia. I get it. Personally though, I'm really excited Pokopia is here because I think it's perfect for somebody who likes Animal Crossing. And then next month, we're getting Tomodachi Life, which is in that same category as well. Just imagine for a second buying a new console for 3 games and not just 1. Because us Animal Crossing players, we tend not to branch out a lot into other genres, right? We kind of like what we like. And that means in these moments, it's really difficult to justify the purchase of an entire console for a game that isn't the thing that you love, like Animal Crossing in this case. So this is my final verdict. I'm not saying you should go out right now and buy Pokopia and buy a Switch 2 because it's that good. But I am saying that if you can afford to buy a Switch 2 and Pokopia right now, then maybe look at some more Pokopia content and decide if it's for you. Because I'm telling you, it is really, really good. And I wouldn't be comparing it so closely to Animal Crossing if I didn't feel like it was tailor-made for folks like us. It was Pokemon's way, the Pokemon Company's way of weaseling in to your life if you're the kind of person who likes cute things, but you don't like making them fight each other. Even if they never make an Animal Crossing for the Switch 2, and I feel like they will, but even if that doesn't happen, I am really happy with Pokopia, and I think anyone who buys a Switch 2 who was just going to wait for one game anyway can only win with this strategy. Not to mention you're getting access to Tomodachi Life, you're getting access to all the third-party games that come out for the Switch 2 in the future. And if you're looking for that Pokopia content to help you finish your decision-making process, then I'm going to encourage you to subscribe here or follow me on Twitch, where I've been streaming the game constantly. Also, you can ask me any questions you like about the game that are more specific, and let me know in the comments how you're feeling about all this. Do you have a Switch 2? Are you thinking of getting one now? And happy Pokopiaing.